In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up an Ingress controller for Amazon EKS. So that's Elastic Kubernetes Service. This is a Kubernetes training video. And I'm going to do it all with Helm, which is the package manager. It's part of a series that I've been doing. So let me just describe what we're actually going to be doing as far as the application is concerned that we're going to be deploying and testing. Um, so I just put together a very small little API or just a little application that returns some values when we reach out over the internet and hit it. That's just going to return some jokes, some pretty lame jokes, no doubt about it. But they're just going to be jokes, and they're going to have these three endpoints. The endpoints are called green, red, and yellow. Okay, and we're going to also have a GitHub action that is basically a pipeline that's going to deploy all of these resources. But first, I'm going to kind of explain, what all this Ingress business is about, and the very first steps of how we get all of this implemented. So, the very first thing that we want to consider is what is this Ingress? Uh, so, an Ingress provides routing rules for incoming traffic in a Kubernetes cluster. That's about it. It's a reverse proxy. So you have a request that comes in to you go visit a web page or whatnot, and you have a couple of options on what to you want to go to. I don't know, Amazon.com shopping, and that takes you to one page. But Amazon.com, Amazon.com delivery, I don't know, that just takes you to another page. But they're all stemming from the same domain. Okay, so what I've configured here is I'm going to basically set up a situation where I'm able to have multiple applications, multiple services running behind this domain. So I call it youtube.sre.university.org. Right now, it's not set up, so I'm going to configure it so we will have it set up, and each of these endpoints is going to give us another joke. Um, so let's just get right into it. Uh, so that's what an ingress is. So these are basically rules. So an ingress controller, this is like an object that it provisions a load balancer that will facilitate the routing of those rules. So the ingress controller is responsible for processing the ingress rules and setting up the necessary infrastructure to route the traffic. Necessary infrastructure being a load balancer. Okay. And Nginx is a very popular software for web servers, but also reverse for ingress controllers and reverse proxies. Um, in this case, this is going to be what the ingress controller is utilizing. So the Nginx Ingress Controller, an implementation of an ingress controller that uses Nginx as a reverse proxy and load balancer. Okay. So the steps to set this up, these are coming from kubernetes.github.io ingress uh, ingress, and it's giving us some steps here on how to use Helm to actually deploy all this into the cluster. All right. So Helm is a package manager. I had a small video on kind of what Helm is, but this just really helps us to streamline the installation of applications and resources onto the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So I've got all that out the way. Let's actually go to the code now. So the very first thing that we want to do here is kind of got the steps already outlined for us. The very first thing we want to do is we just want to add the Nginx repo from Helm. Okay, which is this step right here. Okay, I'll basically copy paste this information here to here. Okay, so if we just do this, it's Helm add Nginx stable repo. This is just going to add the repo that's going to have they call it charts, but in reality, it's just the application that we're going to be able to deploy. So this is like the first step. We just want to add their repo. So Nginx stable has been added to the repositories. Okay. So again, these are all the same. So I'm getting this right from source. All right, and I just put them over here in my little as comments, just so I can do the video a little bit easier. Okay, so we have that. So what we also want to do here is let me just go ahead and just hit this Helm upgrade command. So I want to update all the repos in my local, and I just want to go ahead and deploy the actual Ingress controller now. So okay, so this is me installing the Ingress controller. And I also want to just say, listen, I've already done the deployment of the EKS cluster, which is over here. Okay, so that's work that's been previously done. Okay, so this FYI, we already have an EKS cluster spinning, a Kubernetes cluster spinning. Okay. All right, so that Helm is actually doing its job, and it just gave us a little output, which is great. That's what we want to see. It's saying that the Ingress controller has been deployed. So now let's take a look and see, if the Ingress controller has actually been deployed. We're going to run this command called just get all the pods, kubectl get pods in the Ingress controller namespace. So that's just going to let us know, okay, if that resource is actually up and running, and it is. Ingress controller is actually up and running. It's doing its job. That's great. Now, what I've also done here is I've set up a GitHub Actions pipeline. Okay, so this basically means when I push, make commits to GitHub for, I guess, code changes, I would say, in this repo, it's going to detect these changes for the committed code, and it's going to run these actions. Okay, and these actions are basically what going to actually deploy my application onto the Kubernetes cluster. Actually, what happens is these steps is they list them off directly. So I'm building and pushing my application. So I'm building this out with this Docker file. Okay, so I'm building out a new Docker file each time, and I'm building out a new Docker image, I should say, each time. And so I'm building this out each time, and I'm pushing them to my SimShady Docker Hub repo. So SimShady/Joker latest. So these are always going to be updated with the latest tag. Once is updated, the next step in this flow is to update the kubeconfig and deploy the EKS. So what the kubeconfig is basically it's a local file, or it can be a environment variable that just tells that just indicates how to actually connect to that Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so it's just a configuration file that says, hey, this is how you access this cluster running in the cloud. Okay, that's all it's doing. So in order to do that, we just want to pass the environment variables that have access to that repository, that to my account, basically. It's the AWS CLI is looking for, these specific environment variables, like case sensitive, which actually have the values needed to access my account and the resources. So I set the environment variables here in this step, and I'm updating the kube config so that this pipeline can access the I guess the configuration required to deploy to my Kubernetes cluster, and then I'm actually deploying out all my resources. Okay, so this kubectl apply here deployment is actually talking about this whole series of resources. So this namespace is being created, this deployment is being created, and the service is being created, and this ingress is being created, which I just described. So in this ingress, we're going to end up having to update Route 53 to get our to get the load balancer uh, and create a alias record to this particular domain. So we're going to do all that right now. So let me just go ahead and actually, I kind of got ahead of myself. So, let me go ahead and make this commit, and we'll see how all that looks like. Okay. So I just want to do a git add. Let's see here. Let me just make a change. So I'm gonna do a git add, do a git commit, testing deployment, YouTube, git push. So now if we go here, if we go to this GitHub Actions, so here's the workflow. Okay, the pipeline is actually running because of this GitHub Action. So this is like real time showing you exactly what's going on. Okay, so let's open this up. All these steps are being completed. Yep, we just don't want to see any red. That's yellow is the yellow is good in this case. So look at that. So it's deploying. Everything's looking really good, very smooth. Okay, and it looks like it's done. So we were able to deploy all the resources that we need just now. So now when we go back to, I have my steps in here. So let's take a look here. Let's just do a git pods. Let's just see all the pods that we have in here. Okay, so we got the Ingress controller running, and we got my jokes service application, which is just API running. So look at that. There's 24 seconds running. So this video, it means this video has been running basically at 5 minutes. Okay, that's when I deployed the Ingress controller, and we clearly see that the joke service has only been running for 24 seconds, which is it's about 39 seconds here. Okay. All right, so the next step in our flow here, let's just kind of look at so we got the pods. Let's take a look at get all the services here. Let's see, let me show you what we need to do to configure everything. Get SVC. Okay, so this is going to get us all the services so we can see what's going on here. So Ingress controller, what it does, it provisions a load balancer, which is what this thing is right here. This is a load balancer. And this is our joke service, which has a node port on it. So basically, this Ingress controller is going to route all the requests that I make to this load balancer, which right now I'm just going to go ahead and configure. I'm going to create an alias record that will bind this load balancer to the domain youtube.sreuniversity.org. So let me just kind of show you what that looks like right now. So that's a Route 53 thing. So if I go here and look at all my, so it's this one right here. So let's go ahead and update this one. So again, right now, this should not work. It's not going to work. Okay, but in a second it will. So let me go ahead here and update this record. So what this alias record is basically in AWS, we're able to create an alias based on AWS resources, and so in this case, I'm able just to map my domain of YouTube youtube.sreuniversity.org to a load balancer running in the cloud, and this is how AWS allows us to do it. And so this load balancer, it ends in like B99. We see it right here, B99. Let's see something. So B99. So it's this one right here. So before I had this one, before I started this video, this one. This is the load balancer we're going to use right now. So we updated that. So A 2005. Let's see here. A 2005 C3D0. A 2005 3CD0. Okay, great. We're gonna save that. All right. Before we do this, I also want to do Git Ingress. I want to show you all the resources that. So we see the Git service. I want to do Git Ingress. Okay, so this load balancer that I just configured in Route 53 will map to this domain name, this youtube.sreuniversity.org. Okay, so that's already been done. So that's how we can also check to see this actually working here. So now if we go back to this URL here and we refresh it, we should see that it works. So why was a math book sad? Because it has too many problems. These are very lame jokes, and I apologize. These are terrible jokes. I get it. But if I just put in each of these paths here, so yellow, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Very terrible jokes. But look, yellow. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Red is going to be, what did one strawberry say to another? If you weren't so sweet, we wouldn't be in this jam. That's actually the best one, I think. It's kind of smooth. So hit red. What did one strawberry say to the other? If you weren't so sweet, we wouldn't be in this jam. Okay, so that's basically kind of what I wanted to demonstrate today. Basically how to configure an AWS Ingress Controller for EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service. How to configure the domain name and the load balancer in Route 53 using an alias record, and the GitHub pipeline. Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know what you want to see. If you like this video, please like and share. Also, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be making lots of this content coming forward. So I just want to just make sure everybody's able to learn and just provide as much value as I can, to be honest. So look forward to the next video, and thank you, and have a good rest of your day.